It was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, I don't know. We thought we'd talk about some Navy stories. There's nothing more badass, and it is the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast. And we've always left it room for some adventure stories and some excitement. And that was kind of, keep the show a little more from the boring norm. And I don't know. As you guys know, me and Kevin were both in the Navy, and we wanted to, I don't know, share some of those stories, share some of the excitement. Because, the way I got it figured, I worry about young men and women now, and the way people are growing up in schools and society and how things are. And I think there's not the can-do attitude, and maybe they get that from joining the United States Navy. I was talking to somebody at work yesterday, and we were like, yeah, kids don't have any kind of structure or feel the urgency to go get a job or go do anything, and they don't know what to do. And you have kids living at home until they're 35 or 40 or who knows what. And maybe the answer is, for those kids, joining the United States Navy, because that's where boys become men, women become women, something. I don't know. We all become, who knows? But that's where it happens. So I don't know. Kevin, you had a good time in the Navy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was
trying times. Did you cry yourself to sleep every night?
It was terrible, but you don't remember the 18-hour days. You remember the fun stuff that happens.
Yes, they actually, when I separated from my last command, the captain has a sit down with you before you leave, and he's like, before you decide to re-enlist or get out, he goes, everybody remembers the good stories and the good times, but he's like, but remember the other times, when people are sitting there crying themselves to sleep, or whatever it is that the horror, right?
Yeah. Well, I was in when I first enlisted, it was Mr. Clinton that was the president.
Slick Willie,
and he just was slashing military funding. And so I remember working 16-hour days, regularly. That wasn't like a, once in a while thing. That was a regular thing. And, everything that broke down, you'd be like, oh, we got to replace this pump. And now we can't afford to replace the pump. Take the pump apart and see what's wrong with that.
So you get down to like piece.
Yeah, right? Until you find the little piece that's just piece of metal that's worn down. And then you have to have some machinist mate, like, just make a new piece.
Right.
In there and
out of scrap metal that he found on the floor in the back in the junk pile.
2-hour project. It's a fucking, a 3-week long project, but
we have men. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like, so when I was in, September 11th happened, and before September 11th at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, it would be like, duty would be like, so duty, you stay on the ship. And so imagine like you have like a regular 40-hour work week that can be a lot longer than 40 hours, but we'll just call it a 40-hour work week for story's sake. Mm-hmm. Then you have duty, where you do additional tasks in addition to your 40-hour work week, right? And that would be, for that 24 hours you're on duty, you have watches that might be 4 hours long or even 6 hours long. And you might stand at the quarterdeck, or you might walk around the ship with a gun, or you might go take soundings and check oil levels and whatever, you do different things. And before September 11th, we had duty every fourth day. And I think we alternated weekends on like a separate rotation, but every 4 days you would be, on duty again. And after September 11th, it became every other day. Now, your command can abuse you as much as they want to in that duty day.
Right.
They can abuse you any day. It doesn't really matter. But on your duty day, there's a good chance you're working 18 hours, and that's in addition to your work day.
Right.
Like luckily you get a watch when your work day should be going on. So I can't help you. I got to be on watch. I can't.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just nonstop fun. I mean, that's what I say. It's just nothing but a good time. Actually, the first day that I arrived to my ship, they had no idea I'm coming. And I show up and they're like, "Who are you? Where are we going to put you? I don't understand." Oh, but as I check my records, you're on duty right now.
You asshole. Like, get in uniform. Go.
They're like, "You need to stand a watch." And I'm like, "What now?" And they were like, "Yeah, we have this gauge down in." So this is like December in Norfolk. And it's cold in December. All right. And you're out on the water, right? I mean, mind you, I'm at a ship pier side, but you're on the water. They were like, "Hey, we have this gauge in the sonar dome that it doesn't have like a sending alarm that if it goes over pressure, it's going to alert somebody. We actually need you to stand there and watch the gauge and see if it goes over pressure. We need you to do that for 6 hours in the sonar dome." And they take me down there. Now, mind you, this is like the outer shell of the ship that you're sitting in. And you're surrounded by water that's 25 degrees or whatever. And they're like, "Sit here." And the guy hands me like 5 blankets. And I'm like, "You have blankets for watch?" I was like, "What? We just take a nap down here?" He's like, "Oh, no, don't worry. It's so cold, you'll never fall asleep." And he was right. And I just sat there freezing my ass off, shaking all night long. And I'm like, "Oh, that's not good." But I don't know. That's kind of how the Navy was, as like a general experience. There was a lot of that. And then there was a lot of drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of drinking and a lot of like just suffering. I remember
drinking
in the Middle East on the opposite side, working in the engine room in 114 degrees outside, but inside in the engine room, it was like 120, it was just pushing it a little bit to like, human tolerance. But, I mean, it's that sort of thing. I think that there are a lot of kids
what
here
makes boys into men.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of suffering in modern American culture, and
the Navy is where you can do it.
If you really want to have a miserable time and be, just have a terrible, terrible time, then the military is a great spot for you.
Yeah.
It really is one of those things that's endurance, it's not nothing too brutal. It's just a little shitty all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of drinking, a lot of fist fights. I remember being in Suda Bay, that was in Greece, and going out. And I was, I could drink. I could handle my liquor. I still can. I'm good at it. There's some things
you did learn that skill. I mean, you may have had it before you joined the Navy, but you definitely have a tolerance.
But they had this stuff called ouzo. Have you ever been to Greece?
I have been to Greece, but no, I don't recall it.
Yeah, so it's so ouzo kind of tastes like Jägermeister. It's got kind of like that black licorice flavor. And
that's a treat.
I was knocking it down, and I was drinking with some old like salty guys, and they're like, "Nah, that's as much as I can do." And turns out ouzo has opium in it.
Sure.
So if you drink enough of it, that's it. And I remember taking a shot, on the bar stool, and that's the last thing I remember of that night. And I woke up the next day, and there was vomit all over me, and
Who hasn't had
yeah,
that play out?
it was a disaster. So if you ever go to Greece, just take it easy with the ouzo. You know, it creeps up on you.
That's I don't know, the big drinking. I feel like it was everywhere. I remember being in Turkey with, just sitting on the pier with a bottle of Jim Beam, or we went to the Virgin Islands one time, and that Crucian rum. Because thing was, so the Crucian rum, you could buy it for like $3 a bottle
Right.
in the Virgin Islands. And it was funny if you ordered like a rum and Coke, because the Coke was hard to get it there because it's an island. They would like pour in the glass like 2 ounces or an ounce of Coke, depending what you ordered, whatever.
Mhm.
They'd pour in the Coke, and then they would hand you the bottle of the rum to
Right. Drink
pour
as
in
much
what
as you
want.
wanted. That.
They were like, you figure it out, but this is and you're like, well, could I get more Coke? Like, this is a bit, oh no, oh, that's another drink. You gotta,
Yeah.
and you're like, all right, that's different.
Yeah, I remember that definitely in the islands down in the Caribbean. It was definitely a lot of rum, but the Coke and the anything that was a mixer was expensive.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's just funny how that stuff works. I don't know. We did one of the big things, like, so we used to do the weapons unload, and I guess in Yorktown they have the they I think they used to store nuclear weapons there. Maybe they still do. I don't know, in Virginia. And you'd go and you'd load up all your missiles and whatever, and who knows. And you'd go load all these things there, and it would be like an entire day of hell where you're just constantly, loading everything as fast as you can. And, and there's people in firefighter, all decked out and doing their thing, because that's what you do when you have missiles. Things might blow up and whatever. Now, again, you're not typically loading nukes or anything, but you're just still ordnance, turns out it blows up, goes boom. So they were like, hey, it'd be great if you took the duty vehicle and drove it up from Norfolk and met the ship up there. And that way, you could, whatever, we'd have a vehicle to drive around and we'd be cool. I'm like, all right, no problem. I drive the van up there, and they ended up, you go to the gate and there's nothing across the road. It's just like a guard shack. There's a lot of scary signs that are like, minefields and don't do anything. We're going to shoot you, whatever. And so I go up to the gate and there's nobody there, and it's got mirrored glass on the guard shack. And I'm sitting there waiting, and I'm like, hey, there's nobody here. I wait like 10 minutes. That's a long time, because everything's like whatever. And I'm like, oh, the guy must be asleep, whatever. And so I drive forward. I get about 10 feet, and this guy's fired off his gun and out there screaming and hollering. And I'm like, what's your fucking problem? Like, what the hell? And he comes over. He's like, I told you to wait. And I'm like, you didn't tell me shit. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I was on the phone. You didn't see me hold up my finger? And I'm like, no, there's mirrored glass. And he's like, you should have known. You just wait. I'm like, whatever, man. Piss off. Dude, freaking minefields. Get out. But the joke's on them, because after the hard day of labor, we all go up drinking in the bar they have there. And we just got hammered. It was bad. And I recall throwing up in a urinal, and they were not happy with that, apparently. And so they somehow got MPs who came in and were like grilling everybody. Was it you? Was it you? And I'm all like shot. And they're like, was it you? The guy goes, you look like you're sober. I don't think it was you. And they move on, and I'm like, good answer.
Yeah, you look like you're sober because you threw up all the alcohol you had in you.
I'm like, I got rid of it. We're good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't think all the stories would be alcohol, but
No, they're pretty much all alcohol.
that's the theme.
Yeah, if I recall properly.
So when a battle group does a deployment, they like to get qualified beforehand. And so one of the big things you do is back in the day, and this place closed down in like 2003, but in Puerto Rico, there's Vieques Island. And it's a little touchy. I looked it up on the internet to kind of get the spelling right and make sure I knew what I was talking about. And Vieques Island, we basically go kind of do beach landings and just bomb the hell out of it. Shoot like every kind of thing we have at it and just make sure all our guns work. And it's kind of cool, but they get kind of worked up about it turns out they want to protest that we were putting all this ordnance on this island and destroying a beautiful piece of land. But I kind of want to say it was our piece of land.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't America. We won wars, and then
and then we did stuff.
Set this up.
That's how wars always work, right?
When you win, you get to blow shit up. That's how it works. But anyway, so we took it upon ourselves to go, blow this island up for a day. And I was on a guided missile cruiser. So I was on the Vela Gulf at the time. And it's basically got 2 5-inch guns. So it has a 5-inch gun in the backside and a 5-inch gun in the front. And, kind of like a battleship's laid out, except they have like 10, 16-inch guns on each end. But, the same thing, really. But a battleship, the decks are all made out of wood because when you shoot those big guns, it really shakes things. But anyway, there were 2 of us, and the other ship broke and had to take off. So we ended up getting all their range time, like in addition to ours.
Mm-hmm.
So the powers that be on my ship were like, it'd be awesome. We can shoot these 5-inch guns one every 1.5 seconds. What if we fire both of them back and forth as fast as we can until we run out of ammo? Because wouldn't that be awesome? Sounded awesome to me. They didn't really care about my opinion, but I was down. And so we're like, yeah, let's do that. So we go and do it. Ended up cracking like one of the levels of the ship had a 10 to 13 foot crack down the middle of the hallway, the P-way, if you will. And it just like cracked it right open. And we're like,
just from the torque of going back and forth from one end to the other.
Back and forth. So they definitely have some impressive power. And the Navy's known for making good decisions.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. I remember going to port in Sicily.
Mm-hmm.
Sicily's like an interesting little area. We were in Augusta Bay. That's on the southern end of Sicily.
Are you sure all these places sound kind of the same? You're not just making these up?
This is a whole different place.
Okay.
But in Sicily, it's the Italian mob is a thing because that was the case in Italy. They one of the standard things is shipping in people from different countries and holding their IDs and making them be whatever, your servant, your slave, whatever it is, and that's just kind of how
human trafficking
works, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of Algerian people there. When I went there, they give you a map and they say, don't go to these spots. These are the areas to stay away from. And I was 19. Of course, that's the first spot I'm going to go to. And I go there with a couple of friends and I looked down the street and I saw people that I recognized from my ship, like going in and out of buildings, down the street. They were whorehouses. I didn't, I was 19. I didn't know anything about that. And I got excited. Like, this is this is the interesting thing. I got to look into this. So I start walking down the street and this Algerian lady comes up to me. She was probably, middle-aged woman, and she starts talking to me, obviously a hooker. And I said, I don't speak Sicilian, and I don't know what she heard, but she started swinging on me.
Whoa, Kevin.
So I'm 19. Obviously, middle-aged woman isn't gonna fucking hit me with anything. I'm just leaned back and moved out of the way, and I thought, I could rock the fuck out of this bitch.
Is that what you thought?
I mean, it's self-defense, right? I mean, that's the rules in the United States, but I don't know what the rules are in Sicily. So I just let it go. I just, kept my distance and got out of there. But I don't know what the situation is. Like, I don't know. If a Algerian hooker swings on you, can you punch back in Sicily? If you're in Italy, let me know. Let me know if that was the bad.
That's one for the comments.
Back out of it. Yeah.
Well, I do know that when we were in Germany, I don't know where exact. I want to say it was Kiel or Rostock. Rostock's in East Germany. Kiel's in West Germany. We did a lot more partying in West Germany, so I'm going to say it was probably in Kiel. And we had a sailor go out, and it's funny because I was working in the wardroom at the time, and that's like where the officers' mess is or whatever, and that's a whole other story. But we had a sailor go out, and apparently he got in a fight with a prostitute. So Kevin, here, this is your time to shine, right? So apparently they were having a dispute of pay and whether or not she should be paid for her services or not. Well, it seemed like the right move to him to punch her in the face. So this is why it's a clearly relevant story. Punches her in the face and comes back to the ship. Well, the police come and they come to the ship. And they're like, yeah, we have a sailor who punched one of our girls in town and we want to talk to him. And they were like, well, we have a lot of sailors. We can't do anything for you. How would we possibly know who it was? And they were like, well, he left this white hat with his name stenciled in it. So it was this guy.
Oh, man.
And then they were like, oh, we know that guy. So I'm in the wardroom and hear all these discussions. So they come back in and they call JAG and are like, so what do we do about this one? And the JAG officer is like, well, since we're a U.S. ship, we can say we're going to handle it and you can just keep them and say we'll look into it. And XO looks around and he's like, you know what? That guy's kind of a dirtbag. Turn him over. And I'm like, shit. And they sold that guy out. We never saw him again. So I don't know it. That's how it goes sometimes, So Kevin, punching prostitutes is a no-go.
It's not the way to go.
As a general rule. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean,
that was Germany. I mean,
had no interaction with this woman. She had no reason to swing on me. You know what I mean? I said I don't speak Italian, and she must have inferred some sort of insult from that. I mean, obviously she didn't speak English, but whatever the case is, it seems though. Now I remember a story or an event when we were down in was it Puerto Rico? Possibly Puerto Rico, in the Caribbean somewhere, and this I was on duty, and ship was anchored off the coast, so we had to take boats back and forth between the two places, and between the ship and the port, and got a report that somebody was just over at the at the landing site there, just fucking people up, and so we're on the boat going over there, and I saw the master at arms was on the boat coming back with us, and he was nervous. I could tell he was nervous. Because he was not the biggest, toughest dude I ever met. And we get closer and we see this guy just like slipping out from everybody else trying to tackle him and grab him. And he's just knocking people out, just just blasted people in the face. And then finally somebody tackled him. And I saw another guy run up and kick him in the face.
Oh.
And I looked over at the master at arms, and I could see he was like relieved, like that.
It's like that guy took the hit.
Resolved. Yeah. And then the guy that kicked him in the face looked around, and then went over and stomped on his head just because we got closer, and the guy that was kicking him, it looked like he broke his nose. It wasn't for no reason. But so they got the guy subdued. They got him, zip tied, and they took him back to the ship, and he cooled off and sobered up. And they give him a captain's mast, and they give him 30 days no leave, 30 days half pay. But we were out at sea for the next 30 days. So the no leave thing really had no effect. But at the same time, it seems that in the military, but in the military,
when your pay is nothing, half of it is
it doesn't make any difference. And it seems to me when you like, there's a lot of things you can get in trouble in the military for, but like fucking people up, that's not really one of them. They don't really care about that. You shouldn't do that, is basically what you get.
As a no-go.
I was on a ship when I was first in, and I saw one of the boatsmates talking to one of the deckhands, and he said, he goes, "Hey, take that paint, go outside, and paint that capstan." The guy's like, "No, I'm not going out there." He said, "Why not?" He goes, "Well, you got a hammer in your hand. You're gonna hit me with it if I try and go past you." He said, "No, I'm not." He goes, "Yes, you are." He goes, "No, I'm not." He goes, "All right." He goes to go out and he hits him in the kneecap with the hammer. Why? Just for fun.
Kevin.
Just for fun.
There are bad people in the military.
No problem with that. There's no like repercussions for that. Same guy.
How are you going to become a man if somebody doesn't assault you with a hammer in the P-way everyone
for no reason, right? Same guy. Now I didn't see this firsthand. I heard the reports back afterwards, but he said he was getting transferred to a different ship, and went and talked to this boatswain and said, "Hey, I just wanted to, let you know I'm leaving, and let you know that you're the meanest son of a bitch I ever met." So he stabbed him in the leg. Just stuck it in his thigh. He goes, "Go to medical and get that stitched up." He goes, "And now you'll know that I am the meanest motherfucker you ever met."
Kevin, that's inappropriate behavior. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, there's that sort of stuff that there's really no consequences for it, It's just boys being boys.
Boys being boys. Mm-hmm. It's what they do. I will say, like, as much as there's all the negative, frustrating stories, I mean, I could think of days, like, I definitely was troubleshooting a problem one time for like 24, 25 hours straight. And like, I stopped, and I mean straight, like at the 24-hour mark, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go get chow for the first time in the 24 hours. Because I'm like, this is getting ridiculous. And then the captain or something saw me in the chow line and was like, "No, get back to work." And I'm like, it was getting so bad. Like, I was like the only guy, not like the only capable guy. I was just the only guy, for a good while on my ship, because everybody got like captain's mast or whatever, and sent off. I think one of them was with like a chief's daughter and different things, and one of them, a bad knee and went away, and just, there was nobody left. It got to every port that we would go into, I would just go out drinking like nonstop. And I'm like, if I'm really drunk, they can't make me work. That was always my plan, right? I'd come in at 2 a.m, just sauced, and you walk back to the ship and you're like, "Yeah, I'm here." And they'd be like, "This broke. You need to get on it."
Right. That drunk excuse doesn't work.
Yeah. And you're like, "But I'm really drunk." Nope. Get on it. "But I'm an electrician. It's probably dangerous." Nope. Get on it. And yeah, it was kind of rough. I had one. I think the one with the 24 hours. It's funny, like when radios don't work, it's always like the crypto because it's like the radio men didn't do their thing, right? And so it doesn't match up. We'll just say it's like having the right software to, make a connection or whatever. They have to, and imagine they have to load it every day or whatever. So you always are like, you know what, put in the new crypto and it's going to be good, right? And so they call me and we have two of the same radio and they're transceivers. So they transmit and they receive. And so and that's in one unit, right? So in theory, I should be able to call out to myself and then have it like answer on the other side and talk back and forth between the two. So they're like, hey, this one radio doesn't work. We call everybody in the fleet and nobody can hear us. And so it's not transmitting and you need to figure it out. And I'm like, you know what? Reload the crypto. I'm not doing anything until you put the new crypto in for, you to transmit out of this radio. And then they do it. It still doesn't work. I said, you know what? I don't even trust your stuff. Have another ship send you the crypto and then load that in and then try and talk. Still doesn't work. Nope. I go down, I take the radio, I call to my other radio. Sure enough, I don't hear anything on the other end. I'm like, well, that's weird, like whatever. So I'm troubleshooting this thing forever. It's at the point I go up on the top of the ship and I'm looking at the antenna and I'm like following the wire all the way down to the actual radio from the antenna. Like there's no way it's not getting out. All my meters and everything say that the signal is going out. And I'm like, I don't understand. So finally, after whatever, I'm like, forget it. I'm going to sleep for 15 minutes. And I go and get in my rack and I lay there for like a minute. And I'm like, I know what it is. And I get up, I go back. The receive in the other radio had the wrong crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, but they said they called everybody. No, because they lie and they're always lying. And that's the kind of frustration though. And I know I'm not the only person in the world who's experienced this. I know there's like a million of you at your job that it's the same thing. You're like, that happened to me where
did you turn it off and back on? Yeah, I absolutely did that.
Absolutely. Yep. Do you even know where you are today? That's you guys know, what I'm talking about because we've all dealt with people like that. Mm-hmm. And radio men are those people. If you were wondering,
they are. They're always those people.
They're those people. But I guess they have the technology to mess up, right? It's harder to mess up when, you're mopping decks and you're like, I'm holding the mop upside down the whole time. I don't know what's going on. Is that, I don't know. I don't know what else you do. Or working the paintbrush on the side of the ship. It's, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, when I was just wrapping up my naval career, my wife was she was in IT, but they put her on a security detail.
Yeah.
And, she was commissioning the USS Ronald Reagan.
The Gipper.
Yeah.
All right.
And she got to do security detail for Nancy Reagan, for Tom Selleck, and Pamela Anderson.
They're all like the same person. I mean,
I asked her about Pam Anderson. She said everything about that woman was tiny except for her tits. Yep. So I got a book in the mail the other day.
All right. So you're saying if we mess everything up with the Navy, we could rebuild society with this book?
With this book.
Right, tell me more. I'm excited.
The world. The book is called The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding Civilization. And I got it the other day. I've been through it. It's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
It's great illustrations, and it's got everything from like starting a fire to building a steam engine, to build, creating electricity. It's
now, a lot of things promise big, but you feel like this delivers.
This delivers, man. It's really good. Really good. So, the ultimate guide to rebuilding civilization, and got it last week, and I've gone through the whole thing.
Oh, there it is. But
And it's got it's got so much cool information in here. I'm gonna have to like go through and try and build some of these things. So it's got like medicinal plants, food, tools, optics, about microscopes and telescopes and things like that, aviation.
So as preppers, we often like want to rebuild things, and we're like, how do we create society? I got to say, like, we always look into like gasifiers and things like that.
Mhm.
Now, you could like build a actual steam engine based on this book. Could you? Is the
Right.
information there? They lay it out.
Absolutely, and it's step by step, and it gives you all the details you need for everything. And I
Nice.
think if you could go back in history 500 years and bring this book with you, you'd be like well
The
ahead.
smartest
of
guy
everybody
in the
else.
room.
Yeah. So I mean, if society does collapse, if anything does happen, like the Navy accidentally, was it the Navy that shot down that airplane off the coast of New York? I don't know. Probably. But I mean, if the Navy makes any mistakes and nukes, starts a nuke war, then this is the kind of book you want on your shelf. Something to have.
Now
That'll go through step by step for almost everything you need.
Now, like so you've been through this book though. It's got a lot of great tricks. Because that's the thing. Like, we buy so many books and we spend so much time in research. And I got to say, that's one of the things everyone's like, well, I have YouTube, I'll be able to rebuild it.
Right.
And I can go to YouTube and learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you
can
can't.
you when the internet goes down?
Right. But you
And
can't.
that's the thing. And it's kind of one of those things where you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And like all of a sudden you're like, crap, how do we do this? How do we do that? And this book kind of, I went through it. I saw one and it's pretty cool. There's a lot of options in there of ways you can start over and do things. So that's pretty cool. So what's the book? What's the title? What is it exactly?
Yeah, it's called The Book, The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding Civilization. And it's
Okay.
we talk about having a prepper library,
Yes.
having books on, on all these different topics. This is definitely one of the books that I would have in my prepper library.
I like it. So, all right. So we were able to secure you guys a discount code. It turns out badass book, and it'll get you 10% off. I'm going to put the link in the podcast notes and in the show notes on YouTube and everywhere. So you'll be able to click it. It'll take you right to it. And I like it. That's awesome, Kevin. That's the thing. Like, we're always looking for the new thing, to help you out and make your life easier. And I got to say, something that lays out all the stuff, that's pretty cool. And nice to have everything in one place.
Yeah.
But it has the illustrations. It really breaks stuff down. Do you have one you can throw up, like one of the pictures that kind of a breakdown on something?
Yeah, I think the illustrations were my favorite part of this book. And it's got some pretty neat stuff in here. So
I'll wait for you, give you a minute to find the good one.
Yeah.
I should have reversed your screen so you'd.
Yeah, this one has nautical knots on it.
Oh.
It's got a topless mermaid. I gotta appreciate the topless mermaid.
That's a happy bonus right there, right? That, of course, that's where the page you go to, right?
Right. But yeah, it's got amazing illustrations, and it's got a lot of knowledge in here, a lot of information. So definitely recommend that to have on your shelf. Definitely, it's fun enough to just read through the book, but it's got a lot of information that you may need at some point.
I like it. So I will put it in the show notes. Make sure you guys have access to that. That's awesome. And no, I really appreciate you sticking around. So you have questions, concerns, show ideas, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. I will put a link for a new Facebook group. Turns out the other one may have been hacked. We'll have to look into that. But you can check that out. We're going to talk about that in the after show. So we are going to do an after show today. So you guys may want to stick around. But otherwise, I would say stay safe and we will talk to you guys next week.